So my goal here today is to try to explain Shade Smooth in under 10 minutes, and it's being a little bit difficult. So here is our issue. We have our cube, and as we've seen before, if I go into edit mode and I try to bevel this thing, I get all these facets, and I've told you that we're going to smooth these things out. So that's what Shade Smooth is going to do for us. However, it is going to be a little bit of a problem to explain why and what's going on. So let me undo this and we'll get back to the cube in object mode. So first off, I want to explain how light is functioning inside of Blender. And to do that, I'm going to go over to here, what they call render mode. And it's going to help me to explain this by being able to manipulate this light around and show you how these faces are reacting. So right now, this, and by the way, this is going to sound horribly obvious, but this light is shining on this surface. The light from that surface is being reflected into our eyes. The entire flat face is evenly, completely getting reflected to our eyes. As I grab this and I move it down here, now this face is. And if I'm really careful, I can almost get kind of a gradient there, but mostly it's here or it's here. It's also not a gradient across the face. So I can determine, and I can believe, or at least I believe when I would see an object like this, that that is a flat face. Great. So now let's go back into object mode here, and then go into edit mode. And let's add our bevel back, and we'll put a reasonable amount of segments into this. Now we'll go back into tab and go back into render mode, and we'll move this around again. And as I move it, you can see that each one of those faces lights up, and then pretty much, there's a little bit of a gradient, then it clips off, and then it goes away, right? So that is happening because the program has been designed to do that, right? It's not physics, it's not real life. So how did we get this to happen? Well, the thing that is happening is there are, first off, normals. So if you haven't heard about this yet, normals are these things that look kind of like this. So it tells us that this face is pointing this direction. Then if light were to hit this, I could use that normal direction to try to direct the reflections of the light to somewhere else. I can use the normals for a lot of different things. So right now, the calculation is saying all of this face, we're just saying one line, but just imagine all of this face had, an infinite number of lines sticking out of here. They're all going to be parallel to this one right here. Let me show you a different visualization. So I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to turn on the split normals. And in this case here, notice I'm going to turn on orthographic view. And then I can tip it, then everything will line up. If this isn't too confusing, what I would like to point out is this bit right here in between this purple and this area here. This is all from this face. Then this one here is all from this face. And there's this big gap right in the middle here where nothing is basically going to end up getting reflected. And then we see that as being an edge. So what if we interpolated, did like a gradient, instead of this being one angle and this being another one? What if we gradually change that angle along the way as we got to this? We don't actually change the angle of the face, we change the angle of the normal. So now the program that reflects the light into our eyeballs will say that, well, maybe this side of this face goes off this direction, maybe the middle hits us in the eyes, and this edge over here goes the other direction, and then it will look smooth to us, okay? So let's turn off this craziness here for a second. There we go. And while I'm getting set up for this, I should probably explain why. Okay, that's great, nice story, but why would we care? What's the point of all of this? Well, pretty much in any situation, you want to try to keep your triangles down. I've mentioned this before. If you are doing an extremely high-res scene, maybe it's going to go in a catalog, and you really want to make the viewer believe that they are actually looking at a real bed with a real comforter on it in a real room, maybe you'll crank the thing up. And then also maybe you've got, the world's best computer, and the render times are going to be fine, and maybe you don't mind rendering all day long for that scene. Anywhere else, a video game or most publication, you're going to want to keep the model low cost, and so the polygon count down. By faking the way the light works, it will look good and it's believable, and I can get it over with. Now, I do have to tell you, this thing I'm about to do will not change the horizon edge right here. The edges will still be in existence. There's a way to fix that. That's something different. We'll deal with that later. But just know that if this is an object that's sitting not way in the background, but just maybe, a little bit in the background, I can't see those edges any longer, but I can see these lines right here, and I would like those to be smooth. So you decide when and where to use this. It's pretty darn common. So here's what we do. We right click and we say shade smooth. Get ready, because something weird is going to happen. So I hit this, and as you can see on the horizon line right here, you can see that there is still the edge. You can see the corner, the edge of the face. Now, this thing that's going on in here that makes it look like it's some kind of weird translucent cube thing, well, this is because the smooth shading, the effect that's in place here with the normals, it's smoothing out that angle, but it's also, remember the interpolation, it's doing it around the 90-degree corner, which is maybe extra weird. So when I look headlong at this, how about we look at this sharp corner? Look at this sharp corner. It looks like it's smoothed out for the most part. It's probably kind of hard to do the math right around the sharp corner, so you can see a little bit of right there. But point being, it's smoothing out. It's trying to smooth out everything, and that's not good for us. So we have to do another thing. We have to hit another button, which is, unfortunately, it's way down over here, and it's this normal thing, and we have to tick this button that says auto smooth. It's a weird place to go. It's a weird habit to get into, and unfortunately, but whatever, you get used to it, okay? So you do a shade smooth, and you come over and tick the auto smooth on the normals every single time. Well, look up hard ups, if you, right? There's ways around it. So I go here and I tick auto smooth, and now everything is okay. I want to explain what's happening though, because it's kind of a magic button, and you just go, oh, okay, all better, hit that button. And then one day you hit it and it doesn't work, and you go, oh, bummer. I thought it was supposed to work. Well, here's what's going on. Here's our angle. Now watch, I'm going to crank it all the way up, and it looks just like it did. So we're at 180 degrees. So we're going to try to smooth anything under 180 degrees, and our 90-degree corner is obviously under 180 degrees. So I'll take this, I'll start scooching it down. Now watch the cube, and I'll just lower it here. Lowering. Oh, there it was. Bring it back up, back down, right about there. Come over here, look, where are we at? Of course, we're at about 90. We're just a touch over 90. 90 is good. One more. Oh, 90 degrees is over 89.9 degrees. So that edge is retained. Now that corner there, that 90 degrees, okay? So you could leave it here, but then just to show you, I'll keep bringing this down. Oh, and then all the other lines come out here, and so now we're down at basically 0, so I'll turn it up a little bit. Oh, that one went away. Oh, now they all went away, and that's about 21 degrees. You could decide that, say, that's good enough, but you need to know how this works, because at some point in time you might come around to, let's say, this edge. I'll tab into here and I'll do a bevel on that, and I'll make it fairly shallow or less segments. And now I'll go back into object mode. This is nice and smooth, however this is not. And you see why, right? Because these angles here exceed this value, so I have to bring this up a little bit until they go away. Hopefully that makes good sense. The default here is 30, and that usually seems to be okay. It was not good for this, so I had to bring it up a little bit more. That was a bit too few segments. I keep saying don't do too many, but that was only like, what, 3 segments there. Probably could have used a few more. The angle would have went down, and so then 30 would have probably been fine. So then that's it. I'm just under the 10 mark now, but I'm not going to make it, because what I want to do is I want to go back in here and I want to delete this thing, and I want to bring in a new cube, and I want to kind of do it again. So I'm going to do a Shift A, add mesh, add a cube. Now I'll go into edit mode here, and maybe I will do, I'm going to do some edge picking. Let's make a thing. So do anything that we did before. So I'm going to pick these edges here. I'm going to bevel those in a little bit, and I'll drop the segments down a tiny touch. I'll pick this face up here, number 3, and then S to scale. We'll bring that out a little bit. What's going on here? I'm a little bit too close. You see that? So if you start out here, you're going to get a little bit better motion with that. So I'm going to hit S. I'll bring that out, and we'll make kind of that shape. I've already modified it a little bit, but we'll basically do what we did before. We'll do an inset, we'll extrude it down, and then we'll scale that inward a little bit. We've already got the rounded corners there. That's nice. And so now I can come down here, and I can do an edge select on that, hit the whole loop cut, do a bevel there, and bring it out. Hold down Shift to move it slower, right? If you get so far up here like this and you start seeing that thing in the center there, don't do that yet. That's something else to deal with. So I'll leave it right about there, like so. And then, I want to round this edge as well because it's too sharp. The one at the bottom is too sharp as well. So we'll do an Alt select on that edge, Control B for bevel. We'll bring that down just a little bit. If you don't want all those segments, maybe just a few, maybe a couple more, just a little bevel. And then we'll do the same thing for down here and Alt select that whole mess and then bevel that. Maybe we want that one a little bit more with maybe a couple more segments into it. And then let's call that good, okay? So there's our object. We'll tab back into object mode, and it looks okay, but again, there's our facets. So we right-click on it, and we shade smooth. Everything looks pretty good. Now, this itself, it almost looks okay because, it's not a cube and we can't see that problem, but it is an effect. If you look right here, you're like, oh, it rounded everything out. Remember, it didn't round it out. Later, I'm going to show you another thing, and it will be that we rounded it out. But right now, it's because of our normals. And so we hit Auto Smooth on this, and then roll this back and forth until you see the things that you want go away. I was just looking right there. They're all gone. All those are gone. And everything looks great. So I hope that worked out okay for everybody. The probably the biggest deal is rather than say, click this button and come in here and click this button, make sure that you really understand what this thing is doing. Do exactly what I did. Just recreate this lesson, even moving the light around so that you definitely know what this is doing. So you can move the numbers when you need to, and you don't feel like it's another, one of the million buttons here that I just keep kind of clicking everything and hoping for the best. Last thing I wanted to show you, which could be, really fun here, is remember, go to your matcap here and look what happens now. So I hit this and look at that. So now you've got a really nice looking object, and we can still see our facets here on the corner on the horizon, but down here, look at that. That looks wonderful. So this is a good kind of a preview of what we're going to be doing in our next video. So the next videos are going to be kind of horizontal, I guess, to this. So we've been climbing up the ladder so far of, tool to tool to tool. Inside of the modeling area, we're now going to go sideways, and we're going to take a simple model and we're going to walk it through all the steps needed to get to a scene. So that's going to be shading, it's going to be lighting, and it's going to be rendering, and probably a little bit of compositing. Now, I almost didn't add this in here, but I wanted to show you this. So here's this look again, zoomed in, and this is with these purple lines. They're called split normals, and this is the interpolation that I was talking about. It's not being done at this point. So a face normal is sticking out, the edge, and right here it's sticking straight out like this, and then here's the next one. There's the gap between. Now I want to show you that if I tab, I'll click on here, and then I'll tab into edit mode, object mode, I'll shade smooth, then I'll tab back, and everything is still the same because I have auto smooth on already, but I have it turned down to 0. So I want to show you what happens as I bring this up. Look right here. Right there. You see those ones joined? If we were looking at the top, that's right when we would have saw the shadow or the shading go smooth. And now watch these ones. I'll bring it up, and then they go. So now what you're looking at is right here on this edge, that split has been joined, and so now it will fade between all of these more or less. So that's an interesting way, another way to visualize it. Hopefully that doesn't make it worse.